Today I'll be talking about App Store optimization, and hopefully this presentation will be like a practical guide to it. My name is Ellie, and I work for a company called Supersolid Games. I've been there for nearly 5 years now, and I work there as a product manager. And before that, I worked for a couple of other games companies, Product Madness and Plum B. So this is the agenda for this presentation. I'm not going to go through this list, but if you want to look at this presentation in the future, without me, this is kind of like your table of contents. So what is App Store optimization? It is the process of optimizing a game or application at the store page to improve visibility when users are searching for things organically on the App Store, such as for keywords or by browsing. And additionally, it also improves the performance of your paid marketing campaigns. So not only are you getting good quality free installs, you're also improving the performance of your paid install marketing campaigns. So this involves optimizing and improving the ranks of your keywords, creating and testing App Store creatives to improve conversion, experimenting, always iterating, and more. And I'll go into this in more detail later. This is the ASO stack. It is a very useful tool. You can find it at asostack.com, and as you can see, there are a lot of things that go into App Store optimization, but we'll be focusing on increasing visibility and increasing conversion today. This is another very useful tool, the ASO Activities Impact Chart. It basically shows you what things are the lowest effort and highest impact, and what you should focus on, at least initially. So, visibility and conversion. So increasing visibility and conversion are the two biggest things to focus on in ASO. There are many various elements that feed into both. In terms of improving visibility, so your app being seen by users, there are things like keyword rankings, creative such as icons, screenshots, video, ANRs and crashes of your game, good retention and conversion. And things that impact the conversion in your game, it's titles, subtitle, icon, video, screenshots, keyword rankings, country mix, and more. We'll be going into this in detail. So, starting with increasing visibility. Back to the ASO Activities Impact Chart, I've kind of circled the main things we're going to be focusing on when improving visibility, split into iOS and Android here. So, what do the algorithm rankings consider when they are trying to rank you for a keyword? Are you eligible for that keyword? How often are you specifying the keywords in your app listings metadata, like the Google long description? And how relevant is this keyword for your app? For example, is it located in your title, or is it located in your keywords field for Apple or long description for Google? How often do these keywords appear in your metadata, so in the Google long description? And is it mentioned in the comments? And how much ranking strength does your app have for this keyword? Are there a lot of installs coming through into your app for this keywords? Are users mentioning it in the ratings and reviews? So in terms of how Google and Apple work, Google has a neural machine learning network that kind of finds similar associations for keywords, such as synonyms, similar context, misspelling, slang, and it matches similar words in the search engines and guesses the intentions behind them. So to help rank apps for relevant keywords. And in Apple, there are like a number of things you don't actually have to mention in your keywords to actually get ranked for them, such as like free keywords, such as iPad, free app, iPhone, etc., etc. Additionally, keyword in one country does not affect a keyword in another, so you have to do them separately. So, primarily ranking signals. What do Apple and Google look at? For example, app downloads, like for a certain keyword. If your app is getting a lot of installs through a certain keyword and while users are converting, then surely they are finding your app and they like for this keyword and they like what they see, so you are relevant. Also, if they are mentioning this keyword in the ratings and reviews, then you must be relevant to this keyword. Conversion rate, as I mentioned, if you're converting for these installs, so people are searching for them, then they find your app, they install it, and the conversion between that is high. Clearly, they found what they're looking for when they looked for this keyword and found your app. Additionally, retention rate. If users are installing your app and then actually deleting it after for this keyword, then clearly they thought that this app was something else and the keyword wasn't actually relevant. So, and also additionally, Google looks into app performance such as crashes, instability, ANRs, app not responding. So it is important to always keep an eye on your internal metrics in terms of crashes and ANRs, because it will impact your organic installs. And if Google sees your app as unstable, it will show you to less people. And believe me, it's very, very dramatic. So the cycle of keyword optimization. Well, initially you kind of start by brainstorming, looking at competitors, what keywords are they trying to rank for. There's really useful tools for this, such as AppTweak, App Store autofill, search ads, surveys, thesaurus, etc. Then you kind of prioritize these keywords based on volume, relevance, how difficult they are to rank for. Tools like AppTweak are really useful for this because they show you rankings, volume, competitors ranking for this keyword, how difficult it is to rank for it, and sort of, what your ranking is, and then you can see your improvement over time as well using this tool. So, step 3 is you target, you put these keywords into your app's metadata, and then after some time, you measure the performance and see if there's actually been an organic uplift based off these changes. Things to keep an eye on are search trends. There are new games coming up every once in a while, new sort of topics. So you want to be up to date. Also different autofill changes. You want to have a look at maybe now that you're entering a certain keyword, it actually autofills something else, and maybe that's what people click on. As I mentioned, competitor changes, new apps appearing, your competitors changing their keywords, what they're adding that's new. Additionally, keeping an eye on algorithm changes. AppTweak has a really useful tool that shows if there have been any algorithm changes kind of all over the world, and algorithm changes by Google really do impact installs. So it's good to keep an eye on that. Additionally, just good to keep an eye on if there are any, App Store, Google Play changes, stuff like that. So relevance, difficulty, and volume, these are the 3 characteristics. So relevance should be your primary selection criteria. Is this keyword relevant to your app? And secondly, how difficult is this keyword to rank for? iOS ranks it, iPhone and iPad separately. So you do have to look at them separately. Difficulty is a lot more important than traffic because nobody's actually gonna scroll really, really far down to see your app. So if you're below rank 10 for keywords, then even if the volume is high, nobody's really going to scroll down that much. So it's better to rank number 1 for keyword with less traffic than it is 10 for keyword, less than 10 for keyword with more traffic. But it is, of course, important to try and rank for keywords with good volume. However, it is difficult sometimes. Additionally, apparently that the first 7 days of your app, your visibility is actually artificially boosted by Apple because they want to kind of see how your app performs for certain keywords. So you do want to put in your most relevant and important keywords into your app from the very beginning to try and rank for them during a 7-day boost. So title. Title is basically the most heavily weighted metadata for both Android and iOS. So iOS has 30 characters, Google has 50. And so the space is quite limited. A lot of companies, of course, try and keyword stuff the title as much as possible because it's the primary real estate for good keywords and ranking for keywords. But of course, if the title doesn't make sense, then sometimes users are going to be they're not going to convert. So you got to choose your battles. Also, it's important to save space, as the titles are quite short. So it's important to use ampersand instead of and try and conserve space and so on. So subtitle and short description. So Apple has subtitle, Google has short description. It shows up basically on Apple everywhere on the App Store under the App Store title, and it weighs more than the keyword field, but less than the title, and it's quite limited in terms of space again. And for Google, it's quite important to have it as informative as possible to the users, but also same as iOS, it ranks more, well, it weights more than keywords, but less than title. So Google long description, it can actually hold about 4,000 characters and is definitely indexed by Google. So all the keywords you add into it do have an impact on your keyword rankings. And apparently the sort of minimum you're supposed to have if you really want to rank for a keyword is about 3 times in your app's metadata. So, but apparently this is, the rumor on the street is that density is also important. So kind of the more dense you are for these keywords, the better than having kind of a longer description and like more of them there. So keyword field, instead of a long description, Apple has a keyword field. So, your actual long description for Apple can be anything. None of the keywords in the Apple long description actually matter, unlike Google. However, you do have a keyword field that is quite limited. And so you only get about 100 characters, and you have to do it for every localization. And the best practices are basically to save space. You never use spaces, separate everything by commas. You don't duplicate any keywords, unlike Google. Basically, if you have a keyword that's in the title or the subtitle or the keyword field, don't put it again anywhere, because just repeating does not matter. Exact phrases doesn't help because Apple kind of mixes and matches everything. So you don't have to try and have exact, keyword phrases, unlike Google, where it actually matters. So some key points. So keyword ranks fluctuate over time, so it's good to keep an eye on them. Ranking outside the top 10, as I mentioned, doesn't really receive enough, enough material amount for visibility. So you should always try and get into the top 10, even if the keywords, volume is quite low. The impact of changes on Apple are actually quite fast, whereas on Google it may take a few weeks. And so, app metrics, like for example on Apple, Apple actually tells you how many people have seen your app while browsing, but haven't actually gone to the store page. However, Google does not, so it only gives you the data for people visiting the store page and not seeing it outside of that. So, increasing conversion. So improving conversion improves the amount of people who actually see your app on the App Store, whether it's through paid marketing or just, virally. So it involves it improves organic installs coming in. It improves the cost of paid marketing, because if people go through an ad campaign and convert better, then you've spent less money on an install, because that person actually installed your game and then could potentially spend money in the future. And also, because more users are converting for certain keywords, that means that their keyword rankings will improve. So it's also important to focus on, which users is this game appealing to, what they search for, and kind of adapting your creatives to that, because you want to appeal to people that are going to be most interested in your game. And different app categories have different conversion rates. And you can see for Google, your conversion rate quite easily compared to your peers on the Google console. So it's quite a handy tool to know how you are comparing to other apps in your category. So focusing on increasing conversion, there are quite a number of things that impact conversion in your game. Title, subtitle icon, video, screenshots, keyword rankings, etc. And some of which are, well, now that we're moving more into the creative area of things, some of which will take more effort than just improving keyword ranks, because this involves creative effort and a lot of testing. And there will be things that you test that did not perform well, so you need to make more creatives and test those too. So it does actually take quite a lot of creative efforts for App Store conversion. So in terms of the cycle of conversion optimization, you start from research. What does your market want? What are your most successful keywords? And if so, this is what, people are trying to find when they look for this keyword and install your app. So you need to figure out can I show this to people easier? Am I showing this to people enough? Are they seeing early on that this is what they're looking for? So, you got to see what your competitors are doing, what, the ratings are, what complaints are. Maybe there are things that you haven't realized that people are complaining about. In fact, what colors or styles do your users actually like? And if so, maybe you can adapt your offering to give them what they want so they convert better. So yeah, moving on to hypothesis. Step 2, what do you think your users want and what do you want to try next? Step 3, you create the images. You kind of add your research and hypothesis and see, is this, going to be consumed by the users? And then step 4, you actually A/B test and analyze it. Is this significant? And fortunately, Google has a very great experimenting tool where you can run A/B tests on, icons, screenshots, video, everything. And whereas Apple doesn't. However, a lot of the time we just assume what worked for Google will work for Apple. So, icon. It is the most important element to improve conversion and also the easiest. So it's one of the first things users see when they're browsing the store or have seen your app through paid marketing campaigns. Best practices are usually keeping it simple, using vibrant contrasting colors to make the icon stand out. Repeated testing is important just because, it's increased slightly in conversion doesn't mean that, maybe you shouldn't test something else. And it's important to always keep, iterating and testing. Also, is the icon relevant to what the users are, searching for? Is your primary demographic looking for the specific thing that they see in your icon, or actually is it not relevant to your best performing keywords, and maybe you should adapt that a bit? And so yeah, avoid using a lot of text and clutter on the icon. Test different styles, what styles your audience prefer. Sometimes apps have a completely different style on the icon that they do in the actual game, which may seem a bit confusing, but has improved conversion quite a lot. And just because you've already made the game, you can't change the style, doesn't mean you can't adapt other things to what your users want. And also, it is important to update seasonally, like Christmas icons, Halloween icons. It does have an impact on conversion. We did a test in the past. We updated our icon to a more realistic looking icon, and we had based off some reading done in terms of do audiences actually prefer more realistic icons over more childish icons, and our conversion basically just completely jumped, and then so did our keyword rankings. So the improved icon had to improve conversion, and then had a big jump in just our rankings in terms of keywords, and it was made a really big difference of changing the icon. So video, it is also quite important to us. It's one of the first things users see, especially on iOS when the videos autoplay in the search results. So also on iOS you can have several videos on the on the App Store page, whereas on Android you can only have the one. According to a company called StoreMaven, who specializes in ASO, you can basically see an uplift of 20 to 35% if you add a video. And so yes, best practices include going straight to the action, starting with what your target demographic wants to see in the game. Apparently 80% of users don't watch past the first 12 seconds. Keeping it simple, don't start with a logo because it's just wasting time, and also end with a call to action. Screenshots. It is also quite important to test screenshots, as it's also basically one of the first things users see. On iOS, you can have several videos. However, on Android, you basically have the video followed by screenshots. And there are different store requirements for both. For example, iOS is a lot more stringent with the requirements, and it is important to have the screenshots as resembling real gameplay as possible without any effects, whereas Google's a lot more lenient. And you can kind of have, characters, you can have like special effects, and that's fine. So there are many different places that you can get ideas for screenshots from. A lot of our ideas have actually come from running user acquisition campaigns, because we run so many creatives to acquire users. We actually have a lot of data in terms of what performs, which characters perform, which backgrounds perform, what mechanics perform. So there's a lot of data there that can be very useful for ASO. Additionally, we have run some user tests in the past, so I'll go into more detail in the future, more later in this presentation. And basically, yes, user testing has given us a lot of insight in terms of what people want, what characters they want, and what would actually be really useful. So best practices. As before, start with what your demographic is more likely to be interested in. Don't have too much clutter, and don't have a lot of text on the screenshots. They should really speak for themselves, and just don't have a lot of text. In terms of the feature graphic, it is this exclusive thing on iOS. Not a lot of apps have it right now. It appears over the video as a static image on Google. It used to appear like at the very top, but it doesn't anymore. And it's also quite important to keep testing it, because as always, it's on top. That's one of the first things people see. And it's just, it's useful to try and see if they're like best performing characters, or what works for, your user acquisition campaigns and stuff like that. Other things, basically, you can use stuff like emojis on Google. So you can actually add them to the title. You can use them as bullet points. They can have an impact, so it's good to test them as well, and it doesn't require too much effort. Yeah, also other things, apps over 100 megabytes, you can sort of definitely see a drop in conversion when the larger the app size is. So it's important to try and keep your app size as small as possible. Apparently, increasing the app size has reduced conversion rate by 66% in some tests. So also, Google suggests which apps to uninstall if you don't have enough space on your device, and your app, if it's big, will be a contender to the uninstalling. Title. Title is very important for conversion as well as keywords. It can't be A/B tested, unlike a lot of other things on the Google console. So you would actually need to use a third-party tool, or for example, release a new title in a in a localization that share the same language, but is a second or third tier market to you, and see how it performs there. But yeah, generally there are some suggestions. For example, placing the top keywords earlier in a title, so it increases the perception of relevance. For example, MyFitnessPal, it first says calorie counter, then MyFitnessPal. So when somebody's looking for a calorie counter, they basically see it saying calorie counter first, which increases the perception of its relevance in the game. And also the app appears as a result in the autofill. So it's quite useful. So subtitle. So Apple has a subtitle and Google has a short description. As I mentioned earlier, they are second most important for keyword ranking. But basically they're also really important for conversion. So, it's important to try and not get it truncated for Apple. So try and use as short scriptures as possible. And also for Google, the short description is quite important to explain what the app is about, because it encourages people to actually either download the app or continue on to the long description. So not only is it important for keywords, it's also important to say exactly what your app is about to the users. Moving on to ads and ASO. So there is quite a lot of things that can impact your ASO efforts, and ads are some of them. So the Google Universal App campaigns are really useful. You basically run these campaigns, and they both appear for search, display, and video. Sort of Google's learning algorithm finds the right users for you and shows them the ads. This does impact your keyword ratings because it will sort of start pushing more volume to some keywords through these ads. Additionally, same with Apple ads. You bid for keywords, and the issue is other people can bid for your keyword, like your title as well. So you actually have to bid for your own title to make sure a competitor does not appear above you as an ad bidding for your title. So you need to defend your position. Additionally, it's actually really useful because you can see if you have an attribution partner, which keywords are the most profitable and the most retaining for you. So you can actually see, for example, that a certain keyword is really profitable for you, and you're like, oh, I should actually make more of an effort on this keyword. Or you realize that maybe a lot of your quality audience is coming from keywords you didn't actually realize. So for example, we had game Home Street. So the app you see, the icon you see in the bottom left is the original icon. It was created to be a Sims game. However, after running Apple ads, we realized that most of our most profitable users were actually coming from home design as a keyword. So we were like, oh, okay. So we decided to adapt our icon to be more home design relevant because maybe we're actually not appealing to the demographic that was most interested in the game through the icon. We could actually be getting more users if we were just, focusing more on this. So we not only did we change the icon, we also changed the video. Initially, it started from creating characters to be more Sims focused. Actually, we ended up changing it to start with design your home. So to focus more on the home design people. As you can see, when we improved the video, there was a nice jump, but not too high. When we improved, added the icon, we actually have had a big climb in installs because, once we improved the icon, we improved the conversion, and then, we started getting more volume from these keywords that we adapted to, the users. So after adapting, the icon and the video to the users that we realized were actually most engaged and most profitable, we had a big jump because people were converting more because these were the people that were genuinely interested in our game. So, impact of user acquisition on organic traffic. It can improve keyword rankings. So, having volume come through these keywords, such as, through Apple ads or Google Universal Ad campaigns, will improve the organic flow and improve the keyword ratings for these keywords. However, if you're running ads from Facebook campaigns or Instagram campaigns, they used to have more of an impact on organics than they do now. Now the impact on the K factor is just the uplift in organics once you run paid marketing is just not as significant as it used to be, which is a shame. So ASO, influence and search and ads relevance. Apple keeps a score of the relevance of the app for each keyword bid on. And so, or that search term, the ads are eligible to be displayed or, via broad search match. So this relevance is determined in part by keywords found in your app metadata. So if the keyword in the app descriptions, so the keywords in your app description do count towards the relevance score. So the metadata is a major determinant of, what ads are shown to users in certain times. So it is important to, to keep your app metadata up to date to be also getting better at ad flow. And also, basically, as I mentioned earlier, you actually have to be fighting for your own title. So you are no longer guaranteed to be number one for somebody searching your app name in the iOS App Store. So you actually have to defend yourself. And the addition of basically these Apple ads has downgraded you in terms of ranking for your own title. So yeah, other uses for UA and ASO. So UA campaigns actually, like, as I mentioned earlier, can help determine which creatives perform best in terms of ASO. You can test like a number of creatives for user acquisition campaigns and fast. It could be videos, screenshots, best performing characters, favorite layouts and designs, preferred color combinations, and more. So it's also useful for testing before an app is even live. So other impacts on ASO efforts. A/B tests, surveys, and interviews. It's actually really important to do research in terms of what your people like, what they dislike, and about your app, and also what they dislike and like about competitors' games. This will not only solve problems with the game, but also give insights in terms of how to improve your ASO offering. And so then, after deciding on how to improve this, you then can test these with the Google Experiments tool. And also, as I mentioned, although the audience isn't 100% identical between Apple and Google, it's also good to apply these Google experiments to Apple. We actually did an interesting user test. We wanted to see how people felt about our game versus our competitors' games. And some of the things we looked at was our loading screen and the competitors' loading screens, and what they liked about it and what they didn't like about it, which then also really helped us in terms of our App Store efforts, because we, for example, found that they liked the bottom left loading screen because it looked like there's a lot going on, it looks very interesting, it looks very memorable, that there's a lot of characters, and they really liked that. So we were like, okay, well, this is actually really useful because we know that people like this on the loading screen, so it could be transferred into screenshots or feature graphics. Additionally, we also looked into tutorials and intro videos for us versus our competitors, and saw that actually users really liked kind of humorous or emotional cutscenes. So we're like, okay, so they adding humor and emotion makes things more memorable and interesting. Also, we were looking into characters. So we were looking into our, how people felt about our main tutorial character, Stella, who was also on our icon and our screenshots, versus our competitors' characters. And turns out that people liked, they didn't like her. They thought she was quite childish and just didn't seem relevant. But they did like the guy from Township, because he just seemed really nice, friendly, and the grandfather figure from World Chef. So as I've kind of written all this up here, they liked screens with more characters and food. They liked emotional and humorous elements, and they also liked the fact that characters were relevant. So they wanted our main character to be more relevant. And therefore we're like, okay, so this gave us, enough useful information to do more research onto what our users like. And we did a whole survey about a new character and, what they liked, what they didn't like, and then ended up with a favorite combination. And with this favorite combination, we can now go off and, adapt our sort of creative as well, test things and see if actually, this is something that we hadn't looked into. But now that we've done this test on what users like, we now know what they might like in terms of creatives on the App Store as well, not just in the game. Cool. ASO during a game launch. So it's important to start looking into ASO way before a game is globally launched, because we can use user research to determine favorite characters, favorite game modes, favorite features, which will be really helpful in terms of App Store optimization as well as paid marketing in the future. And we can determine potential characters on the icons, potential characters on screenshots, screenshot text, and then we can do A/B tests on all this and run user acquisition campaigns to see which are performing the best during soft launch. And yeah, where we can run tests on App Store optimization, we can run tests for Google Experiments, we can test game icons, App Store videos, feature graphic screenshots, and user acquisition, really useful. We can run Facebook ads, we can test game concepts, selling points, art styles, popular characters, and we can target basically like what users are interested in: age, gender, location, device, everything, and how everything impacts each other. So kind of putting everything in a nutshell, optimizing keywords increases keyword rankings, which increases organic installs. Quality installs from high volume relevant keywords increases the impression, install conversion rate, which then feeds into keyword rankings, and so on and so forth. However, increasing in ANRs and crashes in the game, Google sees the app as less quality, and therefore we drop in browse as the app stops being shown to users who might be interested. So we have a drop in browse installs. And additionally, looking into how targeted user acquisition campaigns impacts ASO, we have an increase in paid installs, good quality targeted installs who are interested in your game, visit the page. There's an increase in visit to install conversion rate. Google sees the app as higher quality, increases in organic installs, and more exposure in terms of browse and keyword rankings. So other impacts on organic traffic. So potential, featuring, we have a lot of installs coming in, which might not be converting as, well as usual. So this could lead to a, drop in conversion, and therefore post featuring, you might actually have a drop in installs because of that. And because of the impact on keyword rankings because of drop in conversion. Additionally, one thing to keep in mind is that running Google experiments is, really good. However, if the Google experiment is not performing well and you're targeting quite a large audience, it can actually really impact your keyword rankings. So it's good to always be cautious. And if it's not performing well, you need to pause it. Otherwise, it will actually have a detrimental effect on your keyword rankings. So UA ads can also negatively affect your App Store optimization. If you're running ads for that are catchy but not relevant, and players go to the store and they actually don't see what they saw through the ad, they will not convert, and therefore you will have a drop in conversion rates, and then it will have a longer term impact on your keyword rankings. And additionally, age of the game. As the game matures, it becomes more difficult to run experiments in individual countries. So as the volume is going to be quite low, so it's going to take a while to actually get significant results in your experiments. So you might have to start running experiments globally instead of per country, which may not be the most accurate for countries. And it will also get more expensive to run user acquisition campaigns. Additionally, negative ASO changes can have a big impact that will be difficult to recover from as the app gets less installed. Useful tools for ASO, as I mentioned before: Apple Search Ads, Google Experiments, App Tweak, App Annie, and Facebook Ads are really useful. And just some reading resources: the ASO Stack blog, and also Advanced App Store Optimization, a complete guide, is a great book for learning about ASO. And that's it for me. Thank you very much.